The Monetary Authority also relaxed the financing caps for property development projects back to the pre-2017 levels, including the financing caps in proportion to the expected values of the completed property, the property site, and construction costs. The HAMA also added there could be more measures introduced according to the evolving conditions of the property market. Jacky Lin, TVB News.
To prevent illegal cigarette trading, the government will beef up enforcement. Meanwhile, education programs to help smokers quit the habit will also be enhanced.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Financial Secretary Paul Chan delivered the budget for financial year 2024-25 at the Legislative Council today. The second budget address of the current administration comes with a theme: advance with confidence, seize opportunities, strive for high-quality development. The peach-colored cover of the budget symbolizes the first glimmer of dawn, which inspires hope and longing for greater unity. The drop for 9 consecutive months in private residential prices has not only dented government income from both land sales and stamp duties, it has also led to calls from different sectors, urging the government to relax or drop the property cooling measures. With that, Financial Secretary Paul Chan announced in his budget address today that all such measures were scrapped with immediate effect.
This is turning the market back to the normal situation. How the market will react, of course, remains to be seen. But I think from the government's standpoint, it is important for us to grasp the right opportunity to remove the frictions in the market.
That means there are no more special stamp duty, buyer stamp duty, and new residential stamp duty for any residential property transactions. These so-called spicy measures were introduced between 2010 and 2016 to combat property speculation. The first sign of relaxation was seen in last year's budget when the 15% new residential stamp duty was halved to 7.5%.
I think it's good to help people to buy houses, especially good for the economy too.
Housing is always helpful to the extent that you can get more people in houses. They're buying furnishings and it fuels the whole economy. So you'd think it would be a good answer, but would it tend to help those in need, or is it going to help the wealthy?
In lockstep, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority announced a relaxation of various property-related banking requirements. The maximum loan-to-value ratios in mortgages for properties valued at $30 million or below will be raised to 70%, or 60% for properties valued $35 million or above, and for non-self-use residential properties. The interest rate stress testing requirement for mortgage lending will be suspended as well because the U.S. rate hike cycle may be approaching an end. As to whether that will lead to more negative equity cases, the Monetary Authority said the latest loan delinquency or default ratios are still lower than pre-pandemic figures.
Even with these adjustments announced today, the Hong Kong banking sector has ample buffers to cope with any challenges from a sharp correction in property prices.
The Monetary Authority also relaxed the financing caps for property development projects back to the pre-2017 levels, including the financing caps in proportion to the expected values of the completed property, the property site, and construction costs. The HAMA also added there could be more measures introduced according to the evolving conditions of the property market. The budget review, the government has made some progress in finding more land to build flats, but others understood the reclamation plan at Kao Yi Chau will not start as earlier scheduled. Financial Secretary Paul Chan has introduced a 2-tiered standard rates regime for salaries tax and tax under personal assessment. Very high income earners must pay slightly more tax. Mimosa Nagi reports. Facing billions of dollars in deficit, the government has reduced the number of one-off relief measures in the next financial year. Timothy Lee reports.
While the government will continue to roll out several one-time relief measures, it noted there will be a reduction in the so-called sweeteners. The government decided not to distribute cash or consumption vouchers this year, and many members of the grassroots stressed authorities should better utilize their reserves to alleviate the financial burdens of residents. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The government expects a consolidated deficit of $101 billion for the current fiscal year. That's some $51 billion more than earlier estimates. For the next financial year, Paul Chan expects a budget deficit too. The budget has earmarked nearly $1.1 billion to promote tourism and hold more mega events. They include monthly fireworks displays and drone shows, city and nature exploration activities, and even reality shows to promote Hong Kong. A Fashion Design Week will be held annually. Still ahead. Welcome back. Israel and Hamas say obstacles still stand in the way of a ceasefire and hostage exchange deal. This after U.S. President Joe Biden said an agreement could be reached by Monday. Meanwhile, United Nations officials say Gaza is on the verge of a famine because of the lack of aid reaching critical areas of the Strip. Israel blames the UN for failing to send the trucks in. Nasvi Karim has more. Many European countries, including military heavyweights Germany and Poland, affirmed they would not be sending troops to Ukraine. This after reports that some Western countries may be considering doing so, as Ukraine's fight against Russian invasion enters its third year. Daniel Rao reports. India announced on Tuesday its 4-member crew for the maiden space voyage of Gaganyaan or Skycraft in Hindi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was on hand awarding the crew members astronaut wings at a space center in Kerala state. India aims to become the world's 4th country to send a crewed mission into space, just months after landing a spacecraft on the south pole of the moon. Tracy Furness has more. Financial Secretary Paul Chan announced an increase on tobacco duty on his budget speech today. The cost of a packet of cigarette has immediately gone up by about $16. Mimosa Nagi reports.
Don't support this policy. It's too expensive. And this is a way to force the citizen buy the black market.
This man who has been smoking for 14 years said the policy may be effective.
It's not a good thing to smoke. It's unhealthy. It costs a lot on a medical aspect, on the insurance. So yeah, I believe it's a good thing that they increase. Even though I am a smoker, I should calm down a little bit.
It might not stop everyone, but it could probably at least stop some people, especially the younger generation. Maybe they don't have so much money to buy expensive cigarettes.
To prevent illegal cigarette trading, the government will beef up enforcement. Meanwhile, education programs to help smokers quit the habit will also be enhanced.
The director of the central government's Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office has concluded his week-long fact-finding trip to the city. 2 robberies took place in the city today. 3 robbers armed with knives and hammers held up a watch store on Fu Ming Street in Causeway Bay at around 2 p.m. Footage provided by a viewer showed a woman entering the watch store. A black-clad man armed with a knife followed her before pushing her away and charged into the store with 2 other robbers. The trio smashed several glass displays to grab 30 watches before fleeing on a private car. The watches have an estimated value of $6 to $8 million. Investigators said they are trying to track down 3 men of non-Chinese descent. Meanwhile, a 61-year-old male mainland traveler was attacked by 2 men at around noon in a pedestrian subway in Shengshui Wai. The attackers stole his backpack, which contained $3.6 million. Meanwhile, the consultation on the legislation of Article 23 concluded today. Chief Executive John Lee said most views were supportive of the legislation, and the Security Bureau will report to the Legislative Council as soon as possible after analyzing the views. And over to sports. Manchester City striker Erling Haaland scored 5 goals as the defending FA Cup champions thrashed Luton Town 6-2 to reach the quarter-finals. Kevin De Bruyne assisted in 4 of Haaland's goals. In other matches, Championship leaders Leicester beat Premier League Bournemouth 1-0 away, and visitors Newcastle knocked out Blackburn on penalties after a 1-1 draw. Nasvi Karim with more. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.